Well, to me personally, I'm actually a graduate of Upper St. Clair. My father was in the Navy, took the first wave ashore at Omaha Beach, which as a kid I never knew because typical of ladies and gentlemen of that era, they never talked about it. And specifically what it would mean to me, in 2004, my students were involved in a very large World War II project. We divided all the kids up. Every kid was in a different group, and their responsibility was to prepare a booth for the big day when it came. And also part of that was to interview somebody that was alive during the war. And through that process, we came to realize that there was no monument of any type in Upper St. Clair. And much almost to my embarrassment, in checking other communities, this is like the only community. I live just outside a little tiny Finleyville, and there's a monument to veterans there. So the kids then and I kind of brainstormed, and we came up with the idea, and it was totally student generated, and that's why I'm like so proud of them. We made up a sample war bond, and it had a flag on it. It was on parchment paper. And Mrs. Pam Render did all the calligraphy for it, but we sold them in memory of or in honor of. And they were $20 a piece, and we raised in excess of $8,000. And that was the original seed money into this entire project. At the time, the late Doug Watkins was chairman of the council and township manager, and I spoke in front of them, and as a matter of fact, he came up and he said, "This is a great idea as long as you promise me," and all the bonds were numbered. He said, "As long as I get number one." And indeed he did. We had a little ceremony and he picked up number one. So the kids ran with this, and to watch them do it, it was probably as close to what the 1940s might have been, when everybody was involved doing something. It was exciting. So I hope I'm answering the question. That what it would mean to me, it would be very, very proud as an adult knowing that students of mine at one point got this whole thing going. So yeah, it would be just, plus it's the right thing to do.
I always felt a need to serve. I felt an obligation to do something. I always wanted to do my own thing and be independent, kind of create my own path. A lot of things fell into place at Pitt. I loved the ROTC program. And it was my way to kind of I was always a quiet leader, and it was my way to kind of capitalize on that and actually lead. I think mostly it's a link. It's a link between the community and the bigger world. It's a link for all of us here to connect to the people that ensure our freedom. It's a link I see as an educator between students and the community, students and veterans. I think it's a link between generations. I see my own kids with such a big gap between them and the World War II veterans that I think it's something we need. We need a place where people can reflect and see that connection.
To me, I mean, it's a couple things. One, it'd be something, when I look at it, it'd be something that I aspire, to be as of now, just being an ROTC, and my whole life wanting to be a soldier and looking up to those people who served our country and protected us. It's just reminds me of what my ultimate life goal is and what I'm gonna do, and just a reminder of what I want to do. Also, I feel like it's a good thing. It'll mean that, I guess, the township of Upper St. Clair is progressing a little bit. Because I know we all have it pretty well here, and even me, you take it for granted a lot of times, and then having it right there in front of the school, kids coming in on the bus every morning, maybe one or two mornings they don't recognize or realize it, but every once in a while they'll look at it and remember and really think about all the blessings they have being in Upper St. Clair and just being in this country and being safe because of what those men and women did.
As educators, we all know that something visual, something you can touch, see, taste, always brings a point home. Why do we spend so much time going to Washington, D.C.? Families take their kids there. We want to see the monuments. We want to see the museums. From an educational standpoint, it would be something that they would pass every single day on the way into school, at least the high school kids would. And even if nobody ever said anything, sooner or later somebody would say, hey, what's that thing down there? And then it becomes a teaching tool. What our veterans have done for us, I think kids need to know, and they want to know.
I can't think of a better way to have something in the middle of this community and right down the hill from us that we can utilize, we can reference. Students can go and they can see the impact of all of those names and all of those choices that people have made that I'm proud of, and I'm proud that they'll be able to see that in front of them.
I think it'd be a great place to have classes. I know I went down to the creek a couple times for some bio classes, and you can even expand that more, and just having any kind of class out there on a nice day. I always loved going outside. There's a change of pace from being indoors, and it's perfect. So you have a class out there, and then you're still surrounded by the memories of fallen men and women.
Again, I think one of pride, knowing that we've taken time, and sometimes I think we don't remember. We're all busy in our lives and busy in things, and since this is the center of the community, it's something that would be seen pretty much by a large portion of the community every day. And again, adults are no different than kids. Who knows the interest that it might encourage adults to go back and start doing more reading. I remember asking parents at open house, how many of you hated history as a kid? And 99% of them would raise their hands. And how many of you can't get enough of it now? And 99% of them would raise their hands. So, this might be that little impetus to make it 100%. But again, I think it would be pride. Upper St. Clair has always been very proud of what we do. We build a sports team, we build it to be a champion. We build a new park, we build it to be the best. Our schools, our education, we demand the best. Our local government, anything but the best is unacceptable. So why not be the best here too?
I think it's a way for people to reflect on things that are important to them. I think it's going to bring us all back to like basics and give us a perspective on our lives. There's no better thought than thinking of those people that have kind of created what we have today, and the ability to live in Upper St. Clair is an awesome opportunity, and we have to take a second and think about why we have that opportunity and how fortunate we are.
It's just a nice thing to do, to remember people who have sacrificed so much, for the protection of our country. I mean, I have a girlfriend, and she's not too psyched about me being deployed after I graduate, but I understand that, and she understands that, and we both accept that because it's something bigger than both of us. And so this is just something to remember, people like that who have left, not just girlfriends but wives and entire families at home for months, at a time without even talking to them on the phone. And it can be very hard on them, so just something to remember them by, and something to remember them by.
Just this past Memorial Day, I was away, and we were in a hotel, and a gentleman walked in, and I could see he had a veteran's hat on, and I could see it was a brand new t-shirt. And he turned around, and he was just looking for something, and I looked and smiled. I was sitting down, and when he turned around, the back of his t-shirt said, "If you can read this, thank a teacher." Then at the bottom, it said, "If you can read this in English, thank a veteran." And if you just sit for a second and think about the ramifications of that, and there was a gentleman beside me that looked up, jumped up and went over and shook his hand and said, "Thank you, sir." And he said, "No," he said, "you don't need to thank me." He said, "I just did my job." Well, and then it turns out I talked to him a little bit. He was 93 years old, and at 93, his comment still was, "I did my job." That's why it's the right thing to do.